Hi everybody, my name's Eileen. Today I'll be talking about the photothermal transition in surfaces with changing work functions. So to begin with my presentation, I'm going to discuss the background physics of this project, which is electron emission. So there are 4 different types of electron emission, which is an effect that happens when you have high energy electrons in materials such that they emit into vacuum. So we have thermionic emission, which is through heat, photoemission, which is through light or photons, and then we have secondary and field emission, which aren't as important for the scope of my project. I specifically looked at the work function of materials, which is the energy barrier that must be overcome in order for the electrons to be emitted into vacuum. Specifically, I looked at changing work functions of materials, and the way that we achieve that is through dispenser cathodes. So a dispenser cathode, you've probably used one today. They're found in microwaves and microwave transmitters up in satellites, so you probably used it to get here with GPS. They're also used in particle accelerators, which is what I'm interested in, because the dispenser cathode I used was for the University of Maryland electron ring, which was like our own homegrown accelerator on campus. Dispenser cathodes are in particular special because when you heat them up, well, first of all, you get thermionic emission, but also it's like a tungsten sponge on top of a barium reservoir. So when you heat it up, the barium diffuses to the surface and it lowers the work function on it. So I studied how the work function of dispenser cathodes changes by using both photoemission and thermionic emission. So our photoemission is provided with this UV laser, and we have the thermionic emission from the heater inside the dispenser cathode. Next, I will show you a typical data set taken by this setup. So each of these data sets are taken at different temperature levels, and we cool the cathode throughout the experiment. So we start here by cooling the cathode from the previous temperature, and we immediately see a drop in thermionic emission. As soon as this is settled, which means the temperature is settled, we take a little first photoemission measurement by turning the laser on. We then wait for 2 hours in order to wait for the barium to diffuse to the surface, so we know that this work function is actually changed and is stable. And then we take a photoemission measurement there. So this is the first attempt at analysis. We start by measuring the using the thermionic emission after 2 hours of waiting for the work function to settle. So we start with this equation and manipulate it in such a way that this graph should show, the slope of this graph should show us the work function. But already we see that we're in trouble because these points don't make a linear, they're not a straight line. You can see it's kind of curvy. So, and we seem to have 2 different work functions here, which is not the expected results. So this analysis has failed. So instead, I developed another one. This is an analysis using the photoemission from the same time period. And what we do here is we take the normal photoemission equation and divide it so we get a relative photocurrent. So we can already see through this equation how this change, this is temperature and this is the photocurrent. This change may be indicative of work function changes. And in order to illustrate that more clearly, I have this plot. So we rearrange this last equation to solve for a work function. And in order to get this plot, we guess an initial work function, and then we get this plot as a result of that. So with this plot, we see that as we decrease in temperature, that the work function rises, which is exactly what we wanted. So expected results, great. That's the first success of this project. Also, with this successful analysis, we get to see some really interesting physics that has occurred through the experiment. So this interesting physics starts with our, you may remember earlier that we take a measurement right after the temperature has changed. So this is from the previous temperature measurement, and this one is from the new one. And you can see not too much time has elapsed between them, meaning that the barium hasn't had time to diffuse to the surface, which means that they should be at the same work function. As we plot this one here, we see that, yes, there is not a significant change in work function. However, as we increase in temperature, we see that this one's relatively the same work function, but this one seems to have a huge jump in it, even though a lot of time hasn't elapsed. Now, this can actually be explained. We think that this is a transition from pure photoemission to something called thermally assisted photoemission, which is basically when you're your electrons that are excited right under the work function by the temperature get like an extra boost from the photoemission. So this is a new and exciting effect we haven't seen in the University of Maryland electron ring before, so that was cool new physics. So to conclude, started with a standard analysis of work function, and this one didn't work. So instead developed a new analysis using the photoemission that gave us a nice relative change in work function versus temperature. Using this analysis, we saw thermally assisted photoemission. In the future, it'd be nice to get more measurements in that temperature regime to confirm this finding. And in the future, that possible thermally assisted photoemission could give us some insight into how the electrons will behave at that energy level. So like we might get a broader electron energy spectrum than you'd normally expect. All right, I'd like to thank Levon and Dr. Montgomery for their help in this project and over the summer, and I'd like to thank the TREND program and the NSF for funding my research. Thank you.